Ready?
I have started the recording.
All right. So I'm command code.
Zero altitude.
So how many in the audience have actually been to DarkNet before?
DEFCON?
DEFCON and DarkNet? Both? Who's actually participated in DarkNet before? Who's done more than one contest before DEFCON? Or more than one challenge, not contest? Well, if you don't count. Really? That's it? All right.
Cool.
Well, then you'll learn a lot about it this time. So pay attention during this presentation, especially the presentation itself. There will be 2 ciphers in the deck. I'm going to stop here and let everybody take a picture of this, because if you actually want to do the ciphers, you'll need this.
Also, it wouldn't hurt if people want to make an audio or video recording. Please definitely feel free.
You got it from here? They got a few people still taking pictures, it looks like. All right, there you go.
So we wanted to try to frame the discussion of the DarkNet this time in a little bit of a creative way. I'm going to ask the question, is the DarkNet itself a cipher? And we'll use that question as a motivation for describing what the DarkNet is and how it works, and talk a little bit about our history and how we run it. A cipher, in my thinking, has a lot to do with the context, right? In order to solve a cipher, you may need some particular context, some setting, some historical background, some particular thing that you're playing off of in your setting, in order to make it so that it's a fun cipher for people to solve. Or in the case of, for example, a cipher you do not intend for people to solve, something that will make it distinct for your group of people, that will distinguish it from other groups of people so that they cannot solve it. And the DarkNet shares some similarities with that. The DarkNet is a contest that we run at DEF CON every year. It is characterized by being set in a particular fictional world. The context is that there's been a pair of books written by Daniel Suarez, The Demon and Freedom, in which he proposes an interesting premise, what the world might look like a little bit further on from now, in a sort of dystopian future that is characterized by artificial intelligences of a very minimalistic kind that actually have a lot of power over our world.
So the kind of cool part about this is that, about 8 or 10 people came together initially about 8 or 10 people initially came together and started to form a set of challenges that we call the DarkNet at DEF CON every year. It's now grown to 35, 40 different volunteers. Last year we had thousands of signups, hundreds of players, all strictly at DEF CON, ranging, and it's basically an online game to teach you everything from soldering all the way to sign language, and about 20 different things in between.
Yeah, exactly. The purpose that we sort of started out with was the idea of creating a fun event with complex challenges, some of which were ciphers themselves. But the idea was to get people moving through all parts of DEF CON so that they could be lightly introduced to all the parts that they might not normally be able to feel comfortable with or accessible for them, and be able to start handling those kinds of challenges. So, if you think about this, the way I think about it is, just like August 4th, 1936 is a context of the, initial kickoff of the most important war of the last century, World War II, we, of course, have the DEF CON DarkNet being a also context-based challenge in which people participate to accomplish these DEF CON related goals. So another thing that you might focus on when thinking about ciphers is that ciphers have a very rich history, and that rich history informs how the cipher is developed. How it is positioned for people to be able to solve, and the kind of the history of it can also be an interesting set of clues that we send people off on in order to be able to solve them. So just like a cipher, the DarkNet also has a complex history. In our organization, we started off a few years ago with just a couple of volunteers in a world that was very much based off of this fictional world from The Demon and Freedom written by Daniel Suarez, but we've grown significantly since then. We have now over 20 volunteers. We've produced an immense amount of content. We've sold, in aggregate, thousands of badges. We've written a lot of code, and we've done this all to support this event that actually attracts hundreds of people every year, and we're very excited about that. And sort of behind the scenes, the interesting part of that is that there are thousands of hours of volunteer work that go into putting it on every year. And this sort of historical basis is definitely relevant to this comparison of the DarkNet as possibly a cipher. Something that's interesting that people might not know is that these kinds of events that we put on tend to cost a lot of upfront money that we attempt to recoup in the form of badge sales, and it's a significant amount. And the logistics, the organization of the team, and the planning that it takes for a bunch of volunteers that have no other purpose for doing this other than that they're extremely interested in producing these educational challenges for people and getting ciphers and other kinds of technical learning in front of people is kind of cool. Now, also like a cipher, the DarkNet depends on a certain set of mechanics. In every cipher, there's some interesting mechanic that's going on, some operational feature, some mathematical algorithm, or some relationship to a set of symbols that characterizes how the cipher works. And similarly, the DarkNet is like that. And a good example of that in the algorithmic world is, of course, the minimum 20 algorithm, which is, as you all know, an algorithm that takes the permutations of a bunch of independent variables through a set of complexity algorithms and arrives at a final answer, of course. The DarkNet, too, has its own mechanics, and there's roughly 4 different global pieces of the DarkNet that we would like to talk about. The first is the story, the second is the badge and the hardware component, and then we have the software and the logistics of running the event. The story itself, as I mentioned before, is based off of the stories from Daniel Suarez. I highly recommend you take a look. These are some really cool books about a very near future, very realistic possibility of how limited artificial intelligence becomes involved in global politics and global economics. And then from there, there's also the badge, which I'll leave it to Demetrius.
So before I get into the badge, last year we had 25 some odd volunteers, and about 4 of them wrote our story. And if anybody followed it on DEFCON last year, there was this near psychotic level of twittering between fake accounts and people talking to one another and all kinds of things. It made for a lot of fun, but these are all volunteers that go off and do this. Like Zero said, we literally had to break the team down into separate work streams this year so that we could actually organize it. So there's like every other Tuesday there's a meeting, and this has been happening since DEFCON of last year, since August of last year. Every 2 weeks, the team meets and the work stream leaders meet, and then each work stream meets at some other frequency to keep things up to date. And these work streams range from the quest that we write every year to story, the badge itself, help me out here, logistics, hardware,
art, swag.
Yep. All right. So the badge this year is still in the works. Last year we had to we had to get all the hardware figured out. We laid out the board ourselves, got it all manufactured, wrote the firmware. I wrote the firmware. And we had to source all the parts. So I like to go on vacation once a year. Went to buy the parts 6 weeks before we headed to DEFCON, and the place that I bought the parts from canceled my order as I was getting on the cruise boat. So I panically call Zero and say, hey, can you order these parts because they canceled the order for some reason? Can you please do it? He orders them. I get back that day, back a week later, and he's like, hey, by the way, the parts got canceled again. So now we're like T-minus 4 weeks before DEFCON starts, and we don't have the MCUs. So the actual processors for the board. All the other parts are ready to go, just not the actual brains for the whole thing. That was fun. Some panic calls to a couple of sourcing providers, and we finally got it in. That's kind of the evolution of the badge. It's not the entire evolution. There's one badge before the one on the right, but the one on the far right was an AVR-based badge that basically just did IR. The second one is that basically that same badge, except it has IR as well as a I2C 1-inch display. And then last year, that's an Cortex M0 with a full T9 keyboard. So the old school push it 3 times to get a C type thing. And I won't show you this year's, but I guarantee you this year's blows all 3 of those away. It's really coming together nicely. If you're interested in seeing how the badge code worked from last year, there's the GitHub for it. We put everything up every single year, including the final boss quest. This past year, we actually had a boss quest where the agents are the players of the game, need to actually answer quests fast enough before this fictional character, was it Mad Hatter this year? The Mad Hatter this year was attempting to break into the DarkNet. So they needed to finish enough quests to keep ahead of it, and we had this nice screen up where it was showing if the players were winning or if they were winning, and they had to go back and forth all night. And I think somebody finally won about 4 a.m. or something like that. But the final boss quest, which was basically a simple telnet server that you had to connect to and send the right command to, but of course it got denial of service attacked. It got all kind of, it was a lot of fun. It also has the Eagle boards for the file, so if anybody wants to actually get their own boards made, those work too. And we do that every year. What did the badge have on it last year? Had an IR pairing. So every badge came with a public-private key pair. You could not communicate using the 915 megahertz transceiver until you IR paired with somebody that added it to your messaging, to your contacts. Then from your contacts, you could sit there and send text messages to each other. There was quests on there that involved an Enigma, John Conway's Game of Life, there's a set of diagnostics, and all that fit in 20K of RAM and 64K of flash. You want to take over for software?
Sure. Behind the badge and the quests, there's a fairly sophisticated software that the group develops. It involves the quest writing engine, the engine by which we enter in all the challenges, and then the game running engine, which evaluates the challenges for each player and shows the user interface and handles the website and all the other things. The software is kind of cool, actually. I'd love to talk about it at greater length. Of course, we only have a limited amount of time tonight, but it's based on a React front end that communicates via WebSockets so that we can broadcast messages in real time to players as they're playing via push notifications. We have an API layer that's based on the latest and greatest serverless technology. This is all right now currently running on Amazon Web Services for almost free. We have an API layer that is based in Python and connects to our databases through that. And then we finally have a Go server engine that's running the basis of the game engine that serves the WebSockets, that also handles all of the real-time player stuff.
Really the right word? When did you slip absurd in?
A server.
No, absurd. I'm the DBA on the team, by the way.
Oh, absurd amounts.
It's absurd.
Oh, yeah. There's literally billions. Literally billions of SQL functions. It's amazing. It's a cool system. It allows the cool thing about the SQL functions is that the Python and the Go backends barely have any logic in them. They're all embedded in the SQL layer. And so there's an incredible ability to share logic across those layers by simply abstracting those out in SQL functions, and that's awesome, actually. Well, Beluve liked this color.
Oh, blue. As long as they're blaming blue, I'm all right.
DEFCON 25, 25th anniversary of DEFCON, quarter century. It's going to be amazing. It's happening early this week, early this year, I should say. It would be nice if it was this week. It's happening early because of some crazy logistical snafus that happened with the DEFCON planning group. I hope that you all show up. That'd be pretty cool. How many of you are coming to DEFCON this year? Yeah?
Hey, how many are coming to DEFCON this year? Hey, if you guys enjoy the villages downstairs and you enjoy the badges and all that sort of thing, go. First of all, it's in Vegas. Come on. How hard is that? Second of all, imagine those villages down there, but every one of them being the room a size of what the whole conference is downstairs. That's what it's like. It's amazing.
And the DarkNet will be there, I'm just saying. Yeah, we'll be there. The DarkNet Challenge will be there this year, greater and more awesomer than ever. I also want to point out that you can play the DarkNet challenges online in advance. We'll be releasing a case file or a teaser, affectionately known internally as the Marks Committee teaser. And people can play online and participate with us and join in the fun. dcdark.net. You can go there now, take a look at what's going on. Framing this entire discussion was the overarching question of whether the DarkNet is a cipher. No, it's not. It's not a cipher. Yeah, sorry about that.
But it is.
It's an event. We hope you guys come. I'm Zero Altitude.
I'm Command Code. If you guys come to DarkNet, stop by. There was two ciphers running in here. Whoever gets them, reach out to either myself or Zero. You can find us on DarkNet or on Discord. If you go to dcdark.net, there's a link to our Discord channel. Go in there. If you can hit either one of us up and tell us what the final answer is for both of them, come see us at DEFCON. You get a free badge.
Yep. And we'll also be around tomorrow if you want to drop by the crypto village. We'll be around on and off during the day, so please come find us.
You may even drop hints. Who knows?
Thanks, guys.
Thanks. Any questions, too? Any questions? No questions. Communicated perfectly. Got it. Sweet. All right. It's really hard to maneuver a mouse from this distance. All right. Pretty good. It's a bigger crowd than I expected it to be.
Yeah, a couple hundred people.
It's good. Let's go get our speaker badge. Now I want to fuck with it. Oh, is VGA.
It's gonna be fun. How do I make this work? Hi.
I'm Nicole.
Hi, Nicole. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Ah, yes. Yeah. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, I remember us talking last year.
Okay, cool.
So,
Sorry. I can introduce myself. Yeah, that's fine. There's not gonna be anything unless the video works. Do you have a video person?
oh, is it not working?
Nope. My screen changes like it wants to, and then nothing happens. This is where I turn like a dumb user and I don't know anything.
He's going to the bathroom.
Let's go in the bathroom.
Yeah.
What? It's not allowed.
One minute. I know where he is. There he is.
Hey, video. Oh, there he is.
Move it.
No bathroom breaks allowed for Adrian.
You're holding it up.
I know he's talking, but. Come here and make this work, man. Yeah, of course.
It's 8 o'clock and 30 seconds.
Oh my gosh.
What do you guys think of that?